My journey stepping in Anne Boleyn's footsteps, today I have reached Hampton Court Palace, a place of equal joy and devastation. Hampton Court provides the grandest of backdrops for the rise and fall of Queen Anne Boleyn. When Henry VIII began his expansion of Hampton Court, Anne Boleyn would heavily influence the designs. And although Henry tried to erase every last crumb of evidence Anne existed, a few little trinkets remain. This is a stonework falcon, Anne Boleyn's family crest, a survivor of Henry's destruction, as well as the interwoven H and A symbol on the woodwork. This hall would have been full of them, but this is the surviving piece. He had planned a massive third courtyard, a private chapel, an expansive nursery for future children, apartments, hot and cold washrooms. Anne was notably heavily interested in the arts due to her time growing up in the European courts. This is Henry VIII's Great Hall. He and Anne would have held the most lavish, luxurious banquets and feasts right here. The tapestries you're seeing all belonged to Henry, and they would have been the most vivid, saturated shades of red and blue mixed with real gold and silver thread. Absolutely opulence at the max. Anne would visit Hampton Court sporadically over the years, from 1529 when she was given her own private lodgings, all the way until 1536 when she was arrested as queen. I always ponder on the future Anne would have had Elizabeth I been born as son and heir to Henry. What would our landscape look like now? Anne would visit between the 3rd and 8th of December 1533, her first as official queen, to enjoy the Christmas festivities. In the summer of 1534, Anne would remain here after becoming ill while pregnant with the later Elizabeth I. The walls of the palace echo with an etching of history from each of Henry's 6 wives. If only we could go back in time and tell them all to run at high speed. It is in May 1536, however, that the tides started to change for Anne Boleyn. The 1st of May, both Henry and Anne were enjoying the May Day joust at Hampton Court. Anne was left with no goodbye or word of where he'd gone, simply on her own. 2nd of May, the Queen of England would be arrested. She was taken by barge down the river to the Tower of London. This would be Anne Boleyn's final destination. Anne spent her final months here in that spring, and I can't imagine what must have gone through her mind. We know in the January before her death that she suffered a miscarriage, and I believe this was the final blow in her and Henry's relationship. Henry VIII was obsessed with having an heir. All he wanted was a son, and all he'd been given was daughters. The woman who was amazing as mistress, who was fun and intelligent, witty and bright, who loved joking at court and perhaps was too involved in stately affairs at the time. Palace of pleasure and laughter, of love and marriage and ceremony, became the final place Anne would live out as Queen of England.
Yes.
Anne was a woman of high intellect. She was well known within the Tudor court as someone who could barter and stand with the best of them. She and Henry would fiercely row, but most importantly, they would always make up again. Anne was highly political and would get involved and give her opinion on state affairs. Now, for a woman of her time, this was unheard of. A queen's role was simply to obey and provide heirs. A queen who did exactly that was Jane Seymour, the ceiling above us here etched eternally in her memory. This was a palace for pleasure, for laughter and joy, for dancing and feasts, for great successions and pride of each other's love. Dream, a sanctuary and safe space, would quickly become a nightmare. Anne's experience here would have been so juxtaposed, and I can't imagine the fear on that fateful day in May. But Anne's story is far from over. I'm going to continue my journey, tracing her footsteps, making my way through the memory of Queen Anne Boleyn.